Okay, here's today's job. Just pull this Karcher pressure washer apart, k5.5, and see if we can get it going again, because it's shown a fault. I'm not sure what that is, but there's, by the colour of this grease, there's a bit of moisture getting in to there, which we'll service, take all the grease out of there, and pull this switch apart and see if I can't fix it, because it's sticky. So that's the job. Yep, hopefully stand by, see if we can get it. So okay, so this is how this comes apart, and this will be the switch mechanism. It's sticking, so we'll have to repair that. I've identified the source of the fault, and that's this little pressure switch here, that when the pressure builds up, this pulls down and cuts off the power to the motor. There's a hole here in this control unit that pin goes through, and it just deactivates the switch. So it's pretty simple. So that was totally frozen up. So what I've done is I've put some WD-40 down here into the intake, and I've lubed it on the outside, but that's no good. You've got to lube it on the inside. So it'll get a gut full of grease and WD-40 when I turn the water on, and that should lube it up even further. So hopefully that's it. Next job is to clean this out, get rid of all that grease, particularly that white looking grease which has got water in it, re-seal this, re-grease it, and clean this up, and do it with this boating grease here that I've got, which is better for water, extra corrosion protection. So that's the job. I'll put that back together, reinstall everything, and hopefully that'll be a repair. Saves me about $700 I reckon, and I can get up and do the roof. That's even better. Okay, the next job is to clean this out and get all this messy looking grease out of here, tidy this up, and reinstate that so that it all looks clean. Anyway, we'll lube those bearings as well. Okay, the next part of the process is going to be, okay, let's get all this grease out. Let's get all this crappy grease out from in here. Get all of that out because it's contaminated. We'll re-prime this with fresh boating grease and tidy this up, because this is the main driving force and you want this to be good. Completely clean that out, and we'll recharge that with fresh grease. Clean that mechanism, tidy up this bearing, put this back in, reinstate that, put the pistons back in, and reassemble. We're ready to go. The main bearing to the piston, so we've lubed that up pretty well. Put some extra grease in there, pop him in, and then this is basically what drives the piston, so we'll give that a nice generous smattering of grease as well. So this whole system will be beautifully charged. Okay, so that's good. There's plenty of grease in there now. We'll just put some extra grease around the outside of this mechanism just to ensure and we'll grease the lip of this where the O-ring goes as well. I've re-lubed all these pistons. They're all nicely lubed up, and I've charged this up with grease, so that's pretty much lubricated. So now just place this system back together. Got to remember which way it went, so I'll have to refer back to the photos to see which orientation we went, and then we're good. Okay, let's stick this back together. Just get the orientation correct. That was the way that was in. That slides into there. And that'll go in after we get this pump into position. Okay. So there's a bit of pressure on this. We'll put the capacitor back in a bit later. Let's get this assembly together and place it in the right orientation. So this plug will go in there. Nice and neat. It goes in the hole, and we'll just put a bit of grease around that plug as well, because I like to seal things up, particularly with a pressure washer. So that'll stop further moisture getting in there. And now put a bit of pressure on these and just get them started. Don't need to be much. Just a couple of turns each. Once we get them started, because they're all under a fair load with those springs, we'll just tighten them down evenly, one at a time, making sure not to do one up first and then the others. We'll just do 2 turns each, and we'll go in a different pattern so we get it even. So almost there. Making sure that we get all of these exactly the same pressure on them. Tension all these up nice and even. Check them, double check them. Okay, they're done. This earth wire has to go on here now. What is that? That is this little guy. Everything is on this is Torx, so you'll need a full set of Torx spanners, which you can buy from pretty much any auto store. There's your earth back in place. We'll spray that with a bit of WD-40. We'll spray the outside of the pump WD-40, basically inside the switchgear. Give the whole thing a nice drink. So you'll need a set of these Torx to do this job. And that needs to go back on. That goes on here. That's our soap input. Now we put our capacitor back in. Won't hurt to add a bit more grease to the outside of that. So if your pump doesn't start at all, there's the specs of the capacitor. It's a 25 microfarad, 500 volts AC, and this is made in 2021 by the looks of it, or 2009. In place, put the seal back on. That's all good, that's all good. Time for a just to tidy up. I don't like leaving filth all over things when I put them back together. I want them to look almost as if they've come out of the factory. Well, after all that work, I pulled this thing down 3 times actually. First time to clean the switch, put it back together, and it's still faulted, and then I pulled it down and just re-lubed everything, and that wasn't the problem. The problem was actually the switch, which the electrodes had burnt out on, and so once I cleaned those up, which you'll see shortly, that rectified the whole situation, and the unit worked perfectly from there. So don't go chasing the pressure switch. It's not the pressure switch in the 5.5. It's actually the power switch, and it's burnt electrodes in the power switch. We are ready. Okay, so here is what I think might be the problem. These switches are burnt out. So we're going to clean them up and try and reinstate them. It does look a little scorched because they've been arcing, and see if that fixes the problem. This comes around and goes under there. Slide that away. Put my there was a retainer. Turn this around. There is an orientation for this. So this goes in there. This piece here has got a cutout in it where the electrical cable goes. That's nice and snug. Excellent. So the cable goes in, so it doesn't get ripped out of the system, goes in there, and then it locks in here. I might have to do that in reverse. Okay, that's good. These couple of screws go in here. So that's fully serviced now. can't get any more serviced than that, unless you do a motor replacement or something similar. So they're tight. Put this detergent nozzle back in place, and we're good to go. Make sure that's square. Those sides need to go in. This guy goes on. That clips into there. Okay, so it's back together. In the moment of truth, I've got it connected to the power, so that's a good sign that the motor's not running. We'll turn it on. It charged and stopped. Let's see, here we go. That is now a done deal. Fixed. Karcher 5.5, and what it was not the pressure switch, but it was the actual switch itself, which had dirty contacts, so it couldn't actually turn off. So that's the problem. If you've got one of these, that's how to fix it.